Second language acquisition, 1950s to 1960s. Now let us have a closer look at the developments in second language acquisition theories between 1950 and 1960. So let me remind you that during this period, especially in the 1950s, the second language learning theorizing was not given any importance in its own right. The whole point of thinking about theory was to help the teachers in the teaching of the second language in the classrooms. Now, although we say that the theorizing of second language learning was not paid much importance, by that we mean that second language acquisition research was not considered a separate field from the field of second language teaching. The focus was on teaching. However, there was an emphasis that all second language teaching should be informed by some sort of second language learning theory. So it was emphasized that there should be a serious consideration of learning theory when we are teaching the second language. So any theoretical theory or any research done in second language acquisition should end up with some practical recommendations of how to improve the teaching in the classrooms. There were three main paradigms, or I would say principles, underlying the teaching of second language learning at that time. And this arose from what we call a structural view of language, or structuralism. So in this concept or the paradigm of structuralism, there was a conviction that language itself was comprised of finite number of structures, vocabulary, grammar, or anything else, morphemes, whatever you might call it. In any case, there was a finite number of structures in a language. So if those set patterns of the language are taught in the classrooms, the learners will be able to use those patterns to produce and reproduce different types of expressions which they might not have heard before. So for a creative use of language in everyday life, the job was to teach a finite number of patterns in the second language itself. The second thing that underlay the teaching of the second language in the classrooms was that the more the students repeated and imitated the structures of second language given to them, the better they will be able to learn the language. So there was a belief in the repetition and practice, and this is what would allow the learners to learn the second language. The third emphasis that was there, and that principle that was underlying the second language teaching, was that when we are teaching the second language, we should focus on the basics of the language first. So the basic grammar, the basic things about the structure of the language need to be taught before the learners are able to communicate their thoughts. So small constructions of language, small grammar pieces need to be drilled in by the teachers and the learners before the learners are able to use the language creatively and in their everyday life. So you would have guessed rightly that this led to this concept of, or the main theoretical stance of behaviorism. So we will talk about behaviorism in our next lecture. However, this behaviorism, just for now to remember, was the mainstream psychological concept that the learning of a new thing was about formation of habit. And any time you wanted to learn a new habit, you need to get rid of your old habit to replace it.